We are now less than a month from the Iowa caucuses. And joining us now from Des Moines is Republican presidential candidate, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. Good to have you with us this morning.
Governor, thank you so much for being with us. We got some polls over the past weekend. Despite what we've been hearing from the Trump campaign and others, this race may not be over quite yet. Nikki's moving in New Hampshire. You're in second place in Iowa right now. What's your pathway to victory in Iowa?
Well, first, Joe, just let me say there's a lot of disappointed college football fans in North Florida because your Alabama Crimson Tide leapfrog the undefeated Florida State Seminoles to get into the college playoff. You know, we haven't had the love in college football in Florida for a long time as a state. You all go almost every year. So I had to tell my young kids who are all Florida State fans why they went undefeated and did not make the playoff. And I haven't given them a convincing answer yet. So we'll see how it goes going forward there. Look, here in Iowa, this is all about showing up and lining up people to caucus for you. So we've been to all 99 counties. We get people to sign the cards to say they're going to come. We're going to have the biggest organization and support going into a caucus that anyone can remember. That ultimately is what does it. I also think people here in Iowa and in New Hampshire, they expect you to come and answer their questions. They expect you to come and ask for their vote. And I think what Donald Trump will do, he'll parachute in for 45 minutes, an hour, give a speech, and then just leave. We've actually listened to folks, answered their questions, and taken in a lot of their advice about what they want to see about the country. So I think you're going to see that on caucus night. And historically, you know, these polls in the caucus are tough because it's tough to identify who's actually going to go there for 3 hours and caucus, and also what happens in the caucus sites, because people give speeches about the candidates. Different people may change. We've got the best organization for that. All the counties and precincts organized, and so we're excited about what we've been able to do. We have the Governor Kim Reynolds endorsement. We got endorsed by Bob Vander Plaats from the Family Leader. You know, those are really good indications. And I will say this: the people on the ground here, you know, they kind of will just shake their head at some of the polls because, you know, they know the areas where there was rabid Trump support, say in 2016 and 2020, and they say that things have changed on the ground. And I think that's true for both Iowa and New Hampshire.
Well, it's certainly what Bob Vander Plaats and other evangelical leaders have said. Is some are just saying flat out they don't think the polls are going to reflect the outcome. But even if you do end up winning in Iowa, will Donald Trump admit it? He didn't admit it when Ted Cruz beat him in 2016.
No, of course not. Yeah, no, that's baked in the cake. We win Iowa, and then he'll say something, but people aren't going to buy that, especially here in Iowa. They take pride in having the first caucus. Same thing with New Hampshire with first in the nation primary. So we'll do it. But ultimately, the great thing about the way this is done with the smaller constituencies going first is that once people start voting, that changes all the punditry. It changes everything. I mean, clearly there's been a concerted effort to say that Trump is, you know, why even bother having people vote? That is not the way people feel on the ground here in Iowa. Once that starts happening, I think there's a lot of clarity. And, you know, people have said from the beginning about how there were so many candidates running, but the field has narrowed already before Iowa. And I think you're going to continue to see that after we get through these first few primaries.
Governor DeSantis, good morning. It's Jonathan Lemire. I wanted to talk about a crisis you may inherit if you become commander-in-chief, and that's the situation in Israel and their war against Hamas. Your campaign has made it clear, saying that you have the clearest, most consistent pro-Israel policy in the race. But I wanted to ask you as to your assessment of Israel's military tactics with this number of civilian casualties, including children, growing exponentially, seemingly by the week, and with a lot of outside groups warning about what Israel is doing, and the Biden administration doing the same. Do you feel like Israel is conducting this war appropriately?
I think Israel takes great strides to minimize collateral damage. And I think of any military force in the world, they probably do that more than anyone because they have such a microscope internationally coming down on them. When these attacks happened on October 7th, I said we stand with Israel, and everyone was saying that. But I was like, you know, as we get in weeks and months of this, a lot of the scrutiny is going to be on Israel. I think that they do take great pains to focus on the Hamas terrorists. But at the end of the day, Hamas is what's put us in this situation. And I'd like to see more people internationally calling on Hamas to unconditionally surrender and to release the hostages. It seems like most of the opposition is directed at Israel, but they're in a situation where they have a terrorist group on their border that wants to annihilate their entire country and drive every Jew into the sea. So for them to kind of do half measures and not ultimately solve the problem, I don't think that that's an option for them right now.
So, Governor, the Israel funding for Israel, of course, here in the United States is being linked to this border security package, Israel-Ukraine, for border security money, and that deal is being negotiated in the Senate. What is your view of that? Would you approve of that measure? And what do you make of the border security negotiations that have been discussed to this point?
Well, I can tell you this. When I'm around in Iowa and New Hampshire and South Carolina, for that matter, one of the most frequent questions I get is, why is it that they're sending money overseas when they're not willing to take care of problems at home, such as our border? And it is a national security issue, and I think the Republicans should absolutely not. And it's not just money. It's really changing the law and changing the policy so things like parole can't be abused. But there's no question that border, our open border, has made us more vulnerable. I think they need to put their foot down. What they shouldn't do, though, is negotiate some type of deal where there's a mirage of border security and it turns out nothing changes. That's just Lucy with the football, Charlie Brown whiffing again. And Republican voters, I think, would be very, very upset if there's some type of phony deal that doesn't actually get the job done at the border.